What is job costing with examples? Unfortunately, the best way to understand job costing is to watch it kill a job you thought you made money on. Numbers on paper really don't lie. The problem is contractors rarely look at the paper. By the end of this video, you're going to see job costing in action and know how to apply it to your very next job. So we work with a fair number of roofing contractors in our business, work with contractors of all kinds. This particular story of a roofing contractor, they were doing about $4 million of annual revenue, which sounds awesome. They had a good team. They had the trucks with the wraps and all that cool stuff that roofers tend to do when they're running their contracting business. And they started running job by job by job. And one day we asked them, hey, do you know if that job was profitable? We're like, well, of course it's profitable. We got money in the bank, right? Look at our trucks and logos and teams and all that, of course we're profitable. And the reality is when we sat down and looked at the numbers of the job, we turned out that that one particular job cost them $22,000. So that job, they actually, instead of receiving the amount of money that they had and having profit left over, they received the amount of money they had and had to pay an additional $22,000 to get that job. They actually paid to get a job. Now, some of you are listening to this going, I've done that, I've done that. That's what happens a lot of times in the construction space. Why? Is there's a lot of money and that money flows. In fact, we make the argument all the time with construction owners that many times you're less construction people and you're more accounting people. And you spend more time in the tools of a contractor's trade, especially one who owns a business, is less about hammers and nails and 2x4s and more about calculators and calendars. So when we looked at that one job of the roofing contract, you know what we found? Is the profitability of two other jobs, let's say job 2 and 3 on this example, were totally wiped out by the lack of profitability on job number 1. So job number 2 and 3, fortunately they had so they could cover the losses of job number 1, but how depressing for job number 2 and 3 and the joy that you had from the profitability of those jobs, knowing that it just ate the loss from another job. So when we think about a job costing example, I just want you to think about one job, all right? So I want you to think, and you can get a scratch sheet of paper, and just write down the contract value amount for one job. So let's take this one, for example, and put $50,000 up here. So it's a $50,000 contract. For some of you, you have $5 million contracts or $20 million. Just take $50,000 for this example. So we've got a $50,000 job. And in that job, we want to take a couple of things into factors. Now, I'm just about to give you a crash course on job costing. Super simple, 3 elements. What's the total contract value, in this case, $50,000? What's your slime cost? And I'll give you an example of that here in just a second. And then what's left over? That's job costing. Ultimately, what job costing is knowing whether a job was profitable or not. That's the baseline of what job costing means. And in order to do it, there are 3 major layers, but in one of those layers is super important. Let's talk about the slime. You ready? So we put this in here. The I doesn't mean anything. It just helps us to speak the word. That's it, to make it an acronym. And in the word slime, it's subcontractors, labor, material, and equipment. So when we look at all of these things, and then you go back and look at your profit and loss statement. So take a P&L up here. And what's a basic P&L? It's going to be revenue minus cost of goods is what leaves your gross profit. And then down here, once you take out all of your expenses, then below it, you've got your profit at that point. So that's a basic understanding of a profit and loss statement. So how do we get this number up here in the cost of goods? Well, to give us a better idea of what our cost of goods are, we can job cost each job that comes in. So let's take our example number 1, $50,000 contract value. Now we need to subtract some things to know how much to run the business. So our gross profit, which I'm not a huge fan of that term because it makes it sound like it's your profit. It does not say YP, your profit. That's not what this means yet. We've got to take cost out of that. So here's what we're going to do. The very first layer of cost that we're going to take out is the slime. We're going to remove the slime from that business to get a proper job costing. Subcontractors, labor, material, and equipment. So we basically, on this side, we have people, and on this side, we have things, all right? So you just look at it like people, and then I'm just going to put little boxes of things up here. And so people and things, and in the people, we have 2 types of people that you need to look at. Sometimes these are the same, so they can get a little confusing. Subcontractors, so these are, if you're a roofer, you might have a dumpster subcontractor. They bring you a dumpster. You might have your own, but if you subcontracted that out, you would have that. You might have a marketing subcontractor. Oh, wait, this isn't just on site? No. These could be subcontractors for a variety of different things. And so let's say, for instance, that you're doing a job at 3121 Main Street, $50,000, and we need to understand our true cost of what this is going to do. Well, in order to do that, we had the dumpster person come bring the dumpster. Well, that's going to come out of the subcontractor space, or it could come out of material equipment. The point is not the purity of where these come in. The point is that you actually accounted for the number in the first place. So we could go back and forth to go, hey, is the dumpster person a sub? Are they materials? Are they equipment? It doesn't matter. Just put them somewhere. As long as they get caught up in the slime and we take the slime out, it's really, really important to understand. So we have subs and labor. These could be W-2 labor that you have in-house that we need to cost code to cost of goods. So what do I mean by that? That means if you don't have work, these cost of goods go away. But anything that's in the overhead or the gross profit in these expenses right here, those expenses stay. Rent, payroll, those sorts of things. So you need to decide in a job cost, how many of these people are going to be tied to your standard payroll and ongoing expense, that sort of thing, and how many of these people are more seasonal to the jobs, meaning if you don't have a job, they don't get paid. Period. And so we look at that. These are more likely to be 1099s than they are W-2s. One little side note on that, we prefer that construction businesses actually hire people as W-2s. Not everybody. If you're going to use subcontractors, you use subcontractors. But if you've got somebody that you really do need full-time, you want to embed them into the culture of your business, according to IRS laws, you are not really allowed to have them as 1099s, just kind of doing their things, and yet still require them to be part of like team meetings and that sort of thing. So be very careful about that. Go online. IRS has a whole list of how you can make sure you have integrity in that area of what you're doing. Okay, so back to this and understanding what we're going to suck out of this job that's going to get caught up down here so we can understand the profitability of that $50,000. In our materials and equipment, the materials are pretty easy. If you've got, roofing shingles and paper and nails and all of those sorts of things, that's going to be caught up here in your materials. But make sure you don't just include the material cost. Make sure you actually include any materials, anything around it. If there's delivery cost or anything like that, that they get caught up in. And then your equipment. So there's two types of equipment. We'll call it captive equipment and free equipment. Captive equipment is equipment you own and you pay a bill on every single month in order to keep that equipment in-house. The free equipment is equipment that you would rent job by job. Now, we kind of prefer the free and clear equipment unless you know you're just going to use this thing all the time. So if you're going to use it all the time and it's more of a captive piece of equipment, then what we want to do with it is place a value on it. And it's an hourly value or a daily value, however you want to do that. And so when you have this job number one and that piece of equipment goes on this job, it gets caught up here in the expense. So you understand, hey, we hired that piece of equipment that we happen to own, by the way, for $200 an hour, and it spent 8 hours on this job. And so we're going to cost code that up here in understanding our job costing, what we're doing. So if you look at job 1, 2, and 3, and you take all 3 of these different jobs, they've got different levels of slime. They've got different levels of expense that are going to come out and get applied to the cost of goods line. Well, it determines your profitability. And so what's left over up here, the thinner the slime, the greater the margin. The fatter the slime, the thinner the margin. And so job costing is super simple in understanding the example. So if you had 3 $100,000 jobs, they're not all the same. It all depends on the slime and then your overhead associated with those jobs. Now, the good news about this, if you want to have really good numbers on your profit and loss statement, then do a good job of job costing. You can do job costing on a simple spreadsheet. You can literally set up a template, and on each template, it has what's the contract value, what's the slime, sub, labor, material, and equipment, and what's the gross margin from that particular job. That'll at least get you started, and then over time, what you're going to do is perfect that job costing process. And by perfecting that job costing process, you're going to perfect your business. This is a really good time to draw your attention to a video that I've got in the description link below, because I don't want to just teach you how to job cost and understand a profit and loss statement, because these things right here all sit within what we call the 4 Ps, or the 4 foundational cornerstones of every business: purpose, people, process, and profit. And everything I'm talking to you about in job costing is square within the profit vertical. And so if you'll go to that video of how to build a system for your construction business, I'm literally going to teach you. It's a long form video that will be well worth your time. And I'm going to teach you how to build the entire system of your business via which job costing and profit and loss statements can sit in, so you can understand if you've got true profitability, not just in the business, but job by job. So you understand what jobs to take and what jobs to leave alone. See, the ones that we typically need to leave alone, but we don't, those lead to chaos. And our entire mission is to liberate you from chaos to make time for the things that matter most.